Hey everybody, welcome to LiveCast Conversations With, powered by Pealed Back. I'm Gene, the coach, and your host, and this is episode 79. This is a pre-record so we could have the great Lyn Christian on our show today. Find your truth, then live it is the motto that the formidable Lyn not only embodies in her daily life, but uses while working with clients. Lyn has proven herself to be a visual thinker, a connector of the dots. She's a catalyst who challenges you to throw your BS flag, escape mediocrity, and be more strong, focused, and true. Lyn, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
It's great to have you here, and I'm really excited to have this conversation. Reading more about you and what you're doing, and somebody who's been in the coaching business since 1998. Be like, you've seen some things. You've seen a lot of changes going on.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that journey, because that I imagine it's filled with some gems.
Well, the journey actually started when I was a school teacher. I've spent 15 years in the academics. So I was an elementary school teacher of sixth graders. Okay. And my inventive way of teaching, which was inquiry-based learning, was new on the scene, and it was honoring the individual to come up with their own questions. So I was seeking to educate children where interest and passion intersected curriculum. Because not every child, I mean, think about your own elementary ed, you were taught things you were not interested in. So a certain amount of the day, I would allow the students to ask questions, inquiry, like, why is Nike using the swoosh sign as their icon, as their brand, as their trademark? Another child was wondering, why do psychologists have rats in their labs? A couple of young ladies in one of my classes wanted to know what were hippies and what was Haight-Ashbury. So during the day, they knew that I was teaching them what I was required to teach, and I would make it as entertaining, as much game, interaction, computers, could be augmenting that, trying to give them something exciting about how they were learning what they were learning. Right. And then I gave them certain times during the day where they could study their own stuff. And then it would culminate in them sharing what they had learned. And this was really threatening to some of my peers.
Oh, I could imagine.
Yeah, and it was, I had to leave the state and go study this. There were only a few people doing it down in Tucson, Arizona, and I was living in Utah. So I flew down, funded myself, went in and observed, read their books, came back and applied my version of it, and was getting some really good success. And then I started getting persecuted. And I realized I'm not serving anybody here in public education. My 3 children, I was a single parent. My 3 children, I have to save up for 3 or 4 years before we can go to Disneyland or have something fun. So I recognized I need to set myself free. When I did that, I didn't know where I could go. And a lot of people are wondering the same thing today, Gene. Where do I go? Where do I fit in? Can I do something else? What else would that be? How could I earn a living? And my quest was, how could I earn a living and live my life by doing things that inspired me? Because up to that point, I was earning a living. It was meager. However, I was on fire with what I was doing. And I wanted that same passion or even more, and I wanted to be compensated. So I was asking that question, and I read something somewhere that said, every person in your network may know 10, 12, 30 people that you could know. So I went to my network and I said, if you're thinking about leaving academics and going into business, because I did the calculations, business has money. They will pay me more than education can. And I was innovative. So I thought, where will those intersect? So I went around and asked people, who would you talk to if you're going to make a jump from education into business? And I tried my hand at a few self-employment, started a small business here or there, went and got my real estate license, but I didn't find anything, pardon this, I thought I had that down on, it's my phone or my watch that's the culprit. I thought I had So I didn't find what I was looking for.
Right.
And so I asked these people, and one woman said, you should talk to my business coach. And I was like, what's a business coach? And I was so intrigued, I made a free appointment with this woman. I walked in, and here she was in an office. She had hiking boots on. The office was part of her house, an annex part of her house. Her commute was like 6 seconds from her teapot to her couch. And
Yeah.
she was working with me in this vibrant way. She had just hours before been up in the mountains hiking. And I just sat there in awe of, wow, look at this life. That's the kind of life I want to lead. How is she doing that?
I love it.
So she started to coach me, and that was my first experience with a coach. And as I got to watch her, I decided to hire her because my quest was, can you support me as I'm trying to make this jump? How do I enter business? And she knew how to do that. She was a former HR director.
Right.
So she guided me in that process, but I kept getting impressed with her presence and her knowledge. And finally, I just said to her, how did you get to a stance where you feel like an adult who has gone through finishing school for adults? Like, you're the full package of competence, character, integrity. And she said, I'm going to blame that on my coach training. I said, really? And she said, yes. So I took some money I had saved and I invested it in going to a coach university because I thought, I want that finishing school.
Right.
So while this coach guided me, and I eventually jumped in and became part of an innovation team at Franklin Covey. Some people will know that company. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's one of their best-selling books. They were making paper planners at the time. I was able to get hired on their innovation team. I'd published an article. I had quite a few accolades, some awards I'd won as a teacher, and they wanted me to come in and use my instructional design in product creation. So I landed in a perfect spot for myself. And then I was part-time doing coaching as training. So I was working on myself as I was starting to branch out. And one thing led to another. I eventually graduated from coach training, but I needed to have coaching clients as a student.
Yeah.
And I really was good at what I was doing. So I was putting a little nest egg aside because I was doing that in my free hours. Meanwhile, back in business, I was elevated to project manager because I was able to manage things. I'd manage curriculum, students, parents, all kinds of things. As a teacher, there's a whole lot more you do than instruction. And my VP really liked that I could balance all the things on my plate. So I got advanced to project manager, started studying project management.
Yeah.
I became the first trainer of project management certified as a PMP. So PMPs out there.
Yeah.
That's professional project management certification through the PMI, which is the international governing body for project management. And then from there, one thing led to another while I'm doing this side business of coaching and just raking in a little bit of money, doing it in my evenings, doing it on Saturdays, and seeing if I liked it, but really doing it for the self-growth. Yeah. I was really good at it. I kept having an influx of clients. And as I continued at Franklin Covey, I got an invitation to work for the COO and be an associate director in a project management office, which became a project management innovation center. So I'm hoping the people that are listening, you can see the connecting of the dots. I was reinventing over and over, which is one of my specialties, is career reinvention. And one day I was sitting at my desk working on this project management office, and we did a really good job, Gene. In 9 months, we'd accrued $4 million in closed projects that hadn't been closed before because we were providing training on project management. We were teaching ourselves our own content that we were teaching to the world internally. Yeah. And then I was coaching. So when I wasn't training project management, I was coaching people through the content. And we were closing the gap and getting projects done. And that meant some great things for the bottom line for the company. Well, the coaching portion of Franklin Covey, the Franklin Covey coaching group, came over and said, we're going to need a new director. And so we negotiated and they hired me, and I became the director of innovation for Franklin Covey coaching. And then that part of the company got bought off by another group out of Chicago. So pretty soon I was working for another company in that capacity. But what was happening underneath was this entrepreneurial spirit that was already inside of me, was seeing that my personal practice was where my passion was.
Yeah.
And I had total freedom to speak on what I wanted to speak about, write what I wanted to write about. I've ghostwritten books for Franklin Covey. I'd been a speaker on their training circuit. I'd gone out and taught and spoken about coaching and project management. And now I had some freedom to do it on my topics. And so I eventually left. And in 2004, I opened the doors for Soul Salt and had a full practice built up, enough savings that I could make it, and I never looked back.
That's
and
incredible.
Yeah, and it was so fun that within 18 months, 2 years of that, I was earning per quarter what I used to be as a director of innovation of coaching. And so I'm a product of coaching. I'm a believer in it, and I'm also deeply, deeply invested in people who want to reinvent. It's a scary thing. We have a huge resignation away from corporations. And so there's a really big move right now. Like, I am talking weekly with people who are like, how do I do this? This is frightening. What else are my options? And the worst thing, I will tell you this right now, Gene, the worst thing that you can think about, if what my story is evoking in you is curiosity and you want to reinvent yourself, the worst thing you can have in your mind is, how can I replace my salary somewhere else doing something I like better?
Yeah.
That's not the best place to start. The best place to start is within. What are my values? What are my beliefs, my philosophy, my strengths? What are my human needs that are unique to me? What are my interests? What are my aspirations? When we find those things, in fact, I'm going to be publishing a book soon on those, how do you find those things? Once we find those, we have a map.
Yeah.
And that map can guide us to experiment our way. And so I rarely say to people, oh yeah, figure out where you want to go, put on that parachute, jump out of the plane and hope you land there. I'm more of a, let's explore, let's experiment, just like kids did when they found out what food they liked, what toys they liked, what clothing they liked. We are still like big grown-up kids. We learn the same way. How does this interest feel? What does this passion feel like? When you volunteer here, what happens? Can you make a little money over here? Not a whole salary. We experiment our way. We find a way to fulfill the needs, the financial needs, because as a single parent, I was always thinking, how am I going to feed my kids? I can't just jump out of an airplane and hope I land in a new job. So it's build a bridge to that future while you're earning what you need to. It may be less than what you're used to, but it's what you need. And so that's kind of how I got here. I've been doing this since 1998, like I said, full-time since 2004, and I never intended to be a coach. I experimented my way into it and found out, bingo, that's where I want to be.
Yeah, it all started with you daring to ask these kids, you know, what questions do you have? And like, that is like in itself, like that's the power of coaching, right? Is like asking powerful questions to allow them to explore, right? And to hear this, like this theme of experimenting your way through your whole story, it's in there, right? And how powerful experimenting is. Like, for whatever reason, as we get to become adults, we forget that, or maybe that's beaten out of us, depending on the system that we're in. Be like, here's the safety. This is where you can be safe, and there's nothing wrong with safety if you're happy with it. But if you're like, if your fire is like burning, and you're like, what next? Be like, go taste some things, because maybe you've forgotten, you know, like flip that around to like taste, like go out and taste some stuff. Be like, do you even know what you like? No? Then go taste it. Like you say, you don't need to jump whole hog out of the plane, because most of us adults have some responsibilities. I'm pretty sure my wife and kids would not be super happy to be like, oh, just pull and shoot. Where are you going? Be like, down? I don't know yet.
Hope I land well.
Have you ever done this before? Be like, no. Did I forget to bring some things along the way? And like that, your concept of building the bridge, I think, just paints that beautiful picture. Is like, you've never built a bridge before, so you're gonna have to experiment. You're gonna have to start small. Like, maybe you're building it with Legos, then you can build up, and then you can build it over a stream, over a river. Like, you can eventually get through all that, but you have to build up that skills. And I think there's a component of it that's not just about skills, it's about this competency within those skills of yourself, right? And it underlines back to confidence and getting through your saboteurs and imposter syndromes and all those wonderful things.
Yeah. No, you nailed it. You get it. You really get it, Gene.
And I think I resonate with your story as well. It's like going through the coach training, like having coaches, going through the training and going, oh, okay, this was not what I was expecting to get. I thought I was going to get some skills, and now all of a sudden you're like, my life will never be the same. And now, like, oh yeah, I love learning. I love all these things. And the part that I really enjoyed about what you shared about like finding your values and like what you like is I find a lot of people talk about, oh, just go find that purpose and everything will make sense again. Be like, the, yes, and they're like, what does all that mean? You got to like try. You actually have to identify with yourself who you've probably put under all these layers of like stories and start to pull those out. Be like, until you can get to your core, I think finding your purpose is like, I think it's almost an insult to say to people, be like, just find your purpose. You got this. Be like, well, now what?
Right, because I think you've hit on something, Gene. Let's make it even more transparent. Because
Yeah.
I'm feeding off of what you're saying, and I think, and you can stop me or correct me if I get this wrong. I think in a way, what we're both talking about is our values live within us.
Hmm.
They've been active since we were born. Our beliefs sometimes get layered on us, and we get to choose what those are. Some people call them mindsets, some people call them beliefs. For those things we put faith in that we can't prove.
Yeah.
Our philosophies come with experience because those are more actionable. Oftentimes, we're living a philosophy without knowing that we are. Our purpose probably pulls us forward without us naming it. And so, until we take the time to excavate and have someone facilitate us so that the neurons can fire in a new way, and sometimes we can't see who we are till it's reflected back to us by someone who's
Yeah.
seen what we did and then said, did you see this? Did you notice this? Could it be that? We start to put language to it. That's why,
Yeah.
right now, anybody that's listening could talk to us about the last meme or the last quote or the last thing they reshared on social media that really struck them. Because sometimes somebody else's words put language to something we feel and we resonate. And so
Yeah.
we have these things inside that are not necessarily even processed to the place where we can put language with them. And then when we get language, now we have some power because then we can follow through on action that aligns language and belief and philosophy with a behavior. And then we become a little more real. So until someone knows how to facilitate, and that's really what my book is about, I know how to facilitate these things. In fact, I had a potential senior executive, she's being groomed right now, send me a Marco Polo late last night, and I got it this morning. And she said, you know where I went, Lyn? I thought these words were so beautiful. She said, this happened yesterday. It triggered something. And I went to that clean white room inside my soul, and I heard what my truth was. And I know what I'm going to do. And she was at a real profound inflection point.
Yeah.
And she put words to that, all the work we've been working on better than I could have, because now she has her lived experience of what our work meant to her. And in this inflection point, she knows what she's going to do. It took her a few hours to get through the emotion. And now she's like, I know what I'm going to do. So back to what you're saying, it's not that easy to say, oh yeah, just pull your purpose out of your back pocket or just spew out what your values are. It's great to tell people to find those. But what I've really worked on over my lifetime is how do you find them? And once you find them, how do you keep honing them? Because the first thing you come up with, like I'll work with people and we'll define what their original first set of core values are, but over time those refine.
Yeah.
And they go through iterations. Not that the essence of them changes as much as your knowledge of them and what you call them and how they behave in your life work. And that whole mechanism is what my life's work is about. Because I believe that when we find that truth, that's why you use my tagline, when we find those truths and they're individual and they're unique, and we live by those, that's when we can have a life where we earn a living and live our lives by doing things that inspire us.
Yeah. That is so powerful. Like I got goosebumps more than once as you were talking about that stuff. So it's I don't know, like it just resonates with truth to it, right? And it's also like this journey is never about like I've done the work, so now it's done. But like, no, you're just always doing the work, right? Especially from talking from your own journey is like you had all these, we call them pivots or changes in direction, but there was like always like some core truths about what you were trying to explore and how to light that fire within your own soul a lot more, right? And you kept like inching closer and closer, and it didn't happen in a year, it didn't happen in two, you know. From the sounds of it, this was a decade or more of like exploration and learning, coming to terms with this, I'm not serving to where I could be.
Yes, or to what speaks to me. So when you say could be, I'm not serving to where I could be. It could mean to my potential, to my aspiration, to my dream of the future, to my purpose, to my earning capacity. It could be a lot of things, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm curious to like, so your coaching practice is called Soul Salt, and on the side I read a little bit about it, about how like salt is very needed. Can you explain how the concept of Soul Salt has like expanded and brought forth what you're doing, and how that shows up in the work that you do with clients?
Well, true to the nature of our conversation, it's still an evolution. So,
Well, where it is today.
yeah, so I'll start with how it got the inception of the idea for the brand, because I knew myself well enough that if I decided to name my company, it would have a cheesy name.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really good at bringing out the best in others, but I need others to tell me what is my best. And so I had practiced for 3 to 5 years before I decided I need to brand myself. So in 2002, I collected data from people who'd been through my practice. And a couple of people with marketing minds looked at the data, and I was actually traveling for Franklin Covey at the time. Because up to that point, I was just Coach Lyn.
Yeah.
You know, I hadn't formalized into an entity, a corporation, as hardcore as I am now. And I was traveling between Ohio. It was about this time of year because I was watching the Patriots at the beginning of their dynasty win this playoff game in the NFL when I was in my hotel room. And then the next day I was going to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh got beat.
Yeah.
And so I was teaching project management up there. I was in Ohio and then went to Pittsburgh. And somewhere on that trip, the marketers came back to me and said, we've figured out the name of your company. And they said, as we go through these interviews, there's a consistent theme, and it has 2 prongs. One is the information is Lyn helped me see pieces of my soul that were esoteric that I didn't realize. Like, she really awoke something almost spiritually in me. I was like, whoa, okay, didn't know that. And she also helped me with the practical day-to-day stuff. Like, how do I better plan? How do I think through a goal? How do I get a budget ready? How do I get some of my needs met? So the real pedestrian sort of salt that you put on top to bring out the savor,
Yeah.
flavor. And they said, so we think because you're here based in Salt Lake, you should be called Salt of the Soul. Well, that didn't roll off my tongue. I listened to them and I said, you know better than I, because you've looked at the data. I trust you, and I can see now what you're saying. When something comes back to you, you go, never would have put words to it like that, but you're right. You hit a truth for me. And then I said, well, what if we just transpose those and call it soul salt? Because really, these things that you and I've talked about, when somebody finds and excavates values, philosophy, unique personal needs, strengths, that's the salt of their soul. Yeah. That is what is essential. Sodium is essential for our brain functions, even your eyes. If you don't have enough sodium, you can't blink your eyes, the function of your eyes go down. You were born in amniotic or from amniotic fluid that had a lot of sodium in it. Life cannot function without salt, and salt was a means of currency early on. It was a means of wealth. It was a means of sustaining life. And it still is to some degree. We just have other things that we prioritize that we don't realize. If you're deficit in salt in your body, you're going to have some big problems. Yeah. So this whole thing comes back to, I support people to find the salt of their soul, which is AKA their inner truth. And then I hold them responsible to living in alignment with that.
Ooh.
So I'm asking you to live according to your own soul self.
And then you're bringing that heat for it, for holding them to it, because sometimes it's a little uncomfortable, just a smidge, when somebody reflects that back and you're like, oh, I just saw something I didn't think about, and now, oh, the potential train wreck of like, I can't unsee this, and I'm gonna have to change a lot of things that I don't know even where to begin. And to have that ability and have somebody like yourself just holding them there, going, "Don't worry, you've got this," and it's change is going to be a little bit, we'll say, painful.
Right, because there are two demons I find that usually scare people. Most people will walk past them, move through them, but discomfort is one of those things when you're going to change something and the unknown. So, you're not quite sure, you don't have as much surety, and it's uncomfortable. And so here you are trying to proceed, and these things, these little demons come out and try to scare you. And I will tell you, I am proud to say that when I fire a client, or a client thinks they want to fire me, it's usually because we've seen how big and bold they could play, and they shriveled from it.
Ooh.
Now, I'm not a hard-nosed coach that's just out there, cracking the whip and challenging you every time. I will challenge every client at some point, and sometimes more than once. But sometimes when we open this up, it's our boldness. I think it was Anais Nin that told us this. It's our boldness and our biggest parts of us that sometimes frighten us the most. And so it's easier to stay in the bud until we can't. Right. But for me, it's like, don't hire me unless you want to explore these parts and then be responsible for it, because that's what I'm going to ask you to do. That's my brand. Right. And you have them. And I can go back in patterns to when I was a babysitter of neighborhood kids. I was always trying to hold up a mirror to the greatness I could see in each individual, and letting them catch a whiff of, that place where you there's usually a gap between where you are and that part of you that wants to be unbreakable, or that part of you where you feel like this fairy god person whispers in your ear that there's something special and you hope it's true. Well, I take the ethos of that because I believe that. That's part of my belief. I think that every person, when they get down to finding the salt of their soul, has a bigger picture of who they can be if they're willing to let that lead, and if they're willing to stay in integrity with it. And so I believe that my work, combined with so many other good people that are out there, we're here supporting people to wake up to how big and beautiful and bold and harmonious and unified, how courageous and how integrity filled, FILLED, our lives can be when we find these truths and live them, and when we join with others and allow them to have a little bit different nuance than ours, to find a way to have mutual success.
Right. That's and what an experience to have that and to get through it all, because like you say, like, this discomfort is like, you need, at times I think you need that guide, that other person. Is like, ties back to like the hero journey stories. Like, every great story, the hero ends up finding their guide, their Yoda, their Captain Jean-Luc, whoever it needs to be, to pull them through, right? And it's not so much about the pull through. I think there's a component of, I share with my clients sometimes, this idea of like, you might not believe in yourself, but can we agree that you're going to borrow my belief in you to be able to lead you through this?
Yeah. Sometimes we need something. And in fact, I think we're really at a juncture as a human race where we need more of us calling people to do that, to see the best in themselves and to upgrade and become more progressive in our thoughts and our actions, and invent new ways to survive and thrive together. So I salute what you're doing too, Gene.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's that means a lot, Lyn. That really does. So, what is next on your journey? Where, you've got your book coming out sometime this year or in the next couple months?
Well, see, that's part of the journey. So what I'm currently working on, and I released myself from it so I wouldn't be on your show with this, but typically I'm confined to an air cast. I recently had rotator cuff surgery. Over the years, I sustained some injuries from overhead lifts and then caught myself from falling, coming down off a steep uh, descent in a training episode last spring. And that catching of my body weight toward these muscles. And then I was competing. I compete, not professionally, but I compete as high as you can go. I don't know that there's a professional, there's a Olympic level in fencing, but I'm a competitive fencer.
Oh, cool.
And I just started that about 4 years ago. And so I was at nationals and I did a huge parry and it just tore again. So I decided to let it heal for a while, do some PT on the tendon that was involved, the bicep tendon. And then on the 27th of December, I went in and got the shoulder surgery because I'm serious about this. So my next two big goals, I actually have three that I'm working on. One is to fully recover, return to competitive sports, and I'm going to be on a national podium. I'm going to make it to a national podium. I'm going to have a national.
I love that goal.
I have 2 silver medals and 1 bronze from regional, but I'm a newbie, and these women that I'm competing against are they're no fools. They've been doing this for 20 years, 40 years, and so I'm coming new, and I'm coming off of triathlons, which means you don't have to be, and I'm not trying to put anybody down. Triathlons take a lot of courage, especially for me because I was a non-swimmer, and I took them on because I wanted to learn to swim and not overcome the fear. I don't know if you can ever do that, but find a way to save myself in water if I was going to drown.
Right.
So I learned to swim. I competed in open water, but I found that my body was dumbing down, like my coordination and agility, because I was just using these large muscle recruitment movements. And my brain was not as active because it was just like go, 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 go hard, go fast. And I won a lot of medals doing that and got a lot of accolades, but I could tell it wasn't doing my body any good. So I decided to get into fencing because it's something I fantasized about as a kid.
Yeah.
So here I am, retraining the body to do new things, getting my agility, coordination back. I'm 62 and I'm going after it because I know I can. I know my body's in shape. I know I can be faster than a lot of the people my age, but I need to get smarter and more agile and more coordinated, and fencing something that you never master. You're always learning. So it's a great, great challenge. So that's one thing.
I love that.
And it also puts me in a position where my clients are. Going after something big that requires you to really challenge yourself to relearn, or new skills need to be acquired. I just finished writing a book. Before I went into surgery, that was one of the things. I needed to have my book finished because we planned on publishing it this year. One of my dear, dear connections, Sunny Brown, who wrote The Doodle Revolution, among other things, I trust her so much, and I sent the book to her and said, what would you do if you were in my phase where the book's written? And she said, how much does this book mean to you? And I said, it's my legacy. It's my life's work. And she said, then you need to work with a certain book coach. Because this book coach doesn't just help you publish. She works on you finding out how you can become a bestseller. So I just signed up to put myself out there, not just to have a book. I could have done that. I've self-published another book before. But for some reason, my life's work in this book called me out. And I need to make the financial, the physical, the mental, the emotional investment to get it out there. If I'm going to keep my integrity, if I really believe in what I'm teaching.
You're taking your own medicine, right? Like if you're going to give this to other people, be like, are you willing to be like, not just be the talking head, but like I'm doing this on everything. So I'm hearing from like this fencing, which is like just incredible to be like, you've just been doing it for 4 years, winning medals and just finding so much edge from that. And now as well going, well, I could do this. This is my comfort. What would stepping it up be like? How am I living that badass life?
So I have a coach that assists me and a trainer that assists me in the physical aspects of fencing. And I have now hired a coach to take the manuscript to the next level to work on getting a book offer or an agent or someone who will assist me to take it to a bestseller. And then the other thing is all of this requires that I keep specializing as a coach. So I'm passing off. I now have 3 coaches on the staff that I pass people off to, and we're building programs so that they can coach the Soul Salt way, I'm learning to only play in my lane at Soul Salt. So yes, I'm the founder. Yes, I'm still the CEO, but I have a shelf life at that. So I'm
Yeah.
also in the process of organizing and reinventing even what I do at Soul Salt and who will do other things, because at some point I'm going to be out there speaking with a book and I won't have as many clients, and they will need to take up the reins and keep the integrity of our company. And so those are the three main things I'm working on
Wow.
while I'm healing and getting
Yeah.
ready to get back in the game.
Those are like three like incredibly, I'll use the word large, and I don't know if it properly capsulates them all, but that's like three large goals that you are just crushing towards. And like I love the like the book thing, how that's catapulting you thinking about your business as an entrepreneur and going, how can I make this beyond more than just me,
Yeah,
right?
because it's not about me. In fact, my work has never been about me. It's always been about what do you have inside of you that's worth
Yeah.
developing, that you could lead your life from, and your life is going to be better. And so as we nurture these coaches and these employees, it's how do you make a contribution? What is in your wheelhouse? What does all this stuff, what does the salt of your soul say you should play a role, and how do we nurture you? Because it takes a lot of time. You know this, Gene.
Oh
It
yeah.
takes a lot of time to nurture and grow the people that come into our practices as coaches. If we have employees, we have the same obligation to grow them. And so that
Mm-hmm.
requires one-to-ones, it requires group calls. And so, yeah, you're right. There are three big things, and I structure my life. I can have three big things and no more.
Yeah.
The other thing that's not mentioned is I really work on my relationship with my partner. I really reach out to my children. I now have a grandchild.
Ooh,
Those are core to
congratulations.
me. And so I don't let anything else on my radar right now. In fact, I'm going to have to back away from a community thing that has a lot of status. I haven't written that email yet and made those phone calls, but today I made the decision. I need to back away from that because I have now one too many things on my plate, and I can't divide myself. You know, we have to prioritize, and sometimes we have to say no to some of the darlings.
Yeah. No, I that alone is such an important message for like anybody who's like a parent, an entrepreneur, a leader of any, just a person period. It's like you only have so many yeses that you can give
Right,
out.
right.
And like you'd be like, are you going to devalue those yeses? Because as soon as you can't fulfill on them, be like, it's like bringing your stock down a little bit. Be like, so like how do you be having the small amount of yeses and just like cranking that value up to as high as it can go is like, and that's important. That again just like speaks back to living from your integrity, living from your essence, like you talked about, is like that is living it and showing what can be done. Yeah, you might miss out on a darling of an event or an opportunity, but like it's obviously not the right one because it can't trump all the other six things that you have
Exactly.
already held important.
Exactly. So, you know, if I keep my relationships and these three big goals going, I'm good. My life is really
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
As a as somebody that is built up, you built your practice, it was you in the beginning, and as taking it from the lens of like you are still the coach but now being like the business owner, what was it like, that initial like, okay, now I'm gonna have to start to figure out how to hand the reins off and guide these staff members so that Soul Salt can like be beyond just a one practitioner.
It's scary because you know how to do what you know how to do. At the same time, I was prepared for this. When my first advancement at Franklin Covey, when I was no longer just a writer and developer of curriculum, and I was elevated to manager, a member who's now the HR director there at Franklin Covey, he was a member on our team, came up to me. He says, "Let me just share with you, now that you're a manager, your success each day doesn't depend upon what came out of your." Sorry for this again. I thought I had
Oh,
it
I
off.
no worries.
He said, "Your success doesn't depend on what comes out of your computer. It depends upon what comes out of this person, this person, this person, and this person's computer. So now you need to take care of this herd of people and their work." That shift helped me. And I recognized someday, if I own my own business, I need to be able to have it not be about what comes out of my coaching and my computer, but what happens with the company and each of the individuals. And so I've really selected carefully the people that I trust, people that are loyal to the brand, that are true to it, that are living like I'm living, living a formidable life as much as they can. They've done the work. And so here we are trusting each other and figuring it out as we go, as I nurture them. So I think I was prepared back then and looking forward. So in a way that's gratifying, because the thing about my work is it sets you free. When you find your truth and live it, it sets you free. When I find my truth and say, oh, my next level is to do this. And that's the secret to entrepreneurship. Yeah. There's never a ceiling of what you can do with your time and energy. But if you stay down here content because this is what you know and this is what you love and this is the only place you want to play, you miss out on what's up in the ozone that you could go for.
Yeah. It's the old saying, be like, what got you here isn't going to get you there, right? So.
Yep.
That's awesome. Lyn, I remember how I said at the beginning, I'm going to look up, lose track of time, be like, we're at 42 minutes, and I imagine this could keep going, but I want to be super respectful of your time. So is there any shout-outs you'd like to give before we wrap up today?
Yeah, so we have a course. It's a mini course. It's called Believe in Yourself. And hopefully people are starting to believe in themselves a little more because they listen to us, Jean. And so this really helps you break down some of the walls that may be built around you. Makes you question some of the beliefs. It might actually help you overcome some obstacles in your self-esteem. And it's usually about $69. We want to make it affordable. But if somebody's listening right here, we're going to give it to you for $49. And it's a starting point where you can activate some of these things that Jean and I have talked about today.
That's awesome. Well, we'll definitely make sure that link is included then for that course. That's a huge offer. Thank you so much. And before I let you go, I ask every guest the same question. So we're going to hop into my time machine. We're going to go back at least 10 years. When the door opens, you get to give yourself one piece of advice. What would that be?
It would be to trust timing. We're never too old. It's never too late. At age 52, I thought I was going to be reaching some of the things I'm actually reaching now at age 62, or some of the things that I reached at age 58. So it would be to revise, or it would be to say, hey, Lyn, the New England Journal of Medicine in 2018 reported the most productive ages of human beings. Guess what those are? Now we're talking decades, like between 20 and 30 years of age, between 40 and 50 years of age. So hold on to your guess.
All right.
The most productive decade for adults in human life is between 60 and 70. The second most productive is between 70 and 80. And the third most productive is between 50 and 60. Think about it. The average age of Nobel Prize winners is 62. The average age of presidents of prominent companies is 63. The average age of the pastors of the 100 largest churches is 71. So anybody listening to my voice, I found this research. I believe that I just need to be on my own timeline and not worry about other people, because I was a late bloomer. I had a different career. I reinvented in a different place and had to work up. I raised my kids and got them out of the house before I really went full time on my own business. And so I just trusted that the timing was going to be right for me. And then I see this research. So it would be to reiterate that to myself. Lyn, you're 52. You're doing some great things. That's about when I started. I started triathlons at age 50. I did the Spartan races at age 54. You can see the medals from that.
Yeah.
The best is yet to come for me. And this decade of 60 to 70, I'm really going to be productive. And then I'm going to be even as productive in 70 to 80. So it would be to confirm you're never too old. It's never too late. Keep pursuing whatever inspires you. Keep pursuing it.
That is like, I love when we get unique ones, and that was definitely I love that you had the science behind that and everything else. That is such an important message, is that it's not too late. So Lyn, thank you so much for being on the show today. I super appreciate it. This has been a great conversation, and I look forward to re-listening to this one again.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure, and I've had a lot of fun seeing what you're interested in, because I see you're a trekker, among other things. So thanks for the invite, Jean.
You're very, very welcome. And to everybody else, thank you for watching episode 79 of the LiveCast Conversations With. I'm Gene, the coach, and we will see you next Wednesday.